My name is Patrick Cook. I am 42, about to be 43 in a couple weeks, and I am married. I am a runner, marathoner, trail runner, weightlifter, and cyclist. Not really a cyclist anymore, but those are my hobbies. Well, I was training for a marathon. I was looking to Boston qualify, and I was out running. And that's when I found, well, my breathing was starting to get heavy and I couldn't continue my run. So that changed. I couldn't attempt to Boston qualify for the year 2021. This happened in 2020. I couldn't compete in the marathon in 2020. As someone that's always been athletic, a cold has never, or a cough has never knocked me down before. I always trained through it. I always pushed through it, but this was just different. I had to stop, and that's never happened before. So I was so lost on what was going on with me. And so it drew awareness. I just didn't know what was going on. Like I felt a little something in my chest, but I thought it was a cold or an allergies. And it was just after 2 miles, I just said, I have to stop. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break and come back tomorrow. But in deep in my mind, this is very, very strange for it to make me stop. The next day, I was still feeling, I tried to run and I just didn't have it in me, which is rare. So I hopped on my bike on the trainer and I still felt the breathing issues, but it wasn't as bad. And so I kind of said, okay, maybe it's just a bad cold or something. We celebrated our anniversary, went out to dinner, and the next morning we caught a flight to Santa Fe, New Mexico, which has really high altitude, and it got way, way worse. Because and I think I chalk it up to the lymphoma and high altitude. We came back to Houston, and it did get a little better. So I kind of chalked it up. I was like, okay, well, it's not allergies because we went to a different part of the country that doesn't have many trees. So I thought maybe it was our trees. Came back and it got a little better. But it still never went away. And I think, I don't have the timeline in front of me, but I finally caught a doctor and he said I developed asthma. And then I just said, okay, I have asthma. And that went on to the next step. Because my mom had asthma when I was a kid. So I figured, I'm like, okay, it's asthma. Let's get it taken care of. Give me the medicine. I need to get back to my life. This was during COVID. COVID started. The whole pandemic started actually as we were getting on the plane from New Mexico back to Houston. So he goes, I'm going to give you asthma medicine. It sounds like it's asthma. So he prescribed me asthma medicine, the spray, and it never did anything. Actually, I think it made it worse. I started getting gradually worse. And then I called him again because I'm going to give you more medicine. And it kept getting worse. And then by this time, he said, okay, I need to come. They're allowing us to see patients now. Can you come in? I'm going to give you an asthma test and allergy test. He gave me an asthma test. He goes, I don't think you have asthma. And he made me blow through a machine and whatnot. And then he gave me like an allergy test. And he goes, I'll have these results to you in a couple days, but I want you to go take an x-ray. So he sent me to the hospital down the street to get an x-ray. Went home and I got a phone call saying, there's something in your chest. It could be cancer. It might not be cancer, but I want to give you a CT. I want you to go take a CT scan. This is the ENT, by the way. And to be honest with you, I'm a very optimistic person. I was like, this is the ENT. He doesn't know what he's talking about. There's something in my lungs, or that I'll be back on my feet in no time. They'll figure out what it is, be back on my feet in no time. So I called to make an appointment. I really did not think much of it at all. I called to make an appointment for a CT scan, and everything was backed up because of COVID. So I think it took 3 weeks to get in, 2 or 3 weeks. Went to go get a CT scan, and I was very positive. I left to get my CT, went to work, and the doctor called me and said, "This is serious. You either have lung cancer and a slight possibility of lymphoma." And I'm like, "Really?" He was, "If it's lung cancer, it could be stage 4." I used to smoke back in the day, and I grew up in a smoky house. I'm a Gen Xer, so everybody smoked in their houses back then. So I was, there's no way I can have lung cancer. I run so much. I'm very active. It's been 10 years since I smoked. You'll be surprised. It can come back. It can affect you later on. So I called my wife and I was like, "You need to come home, and I'm on my way home. We need to talk." And that's when I told her, and that we need to take further steps to figure out what's wrong with me. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. When she walked through the door, she knew something was wrong, and it was pretty bad. He connected me to a pulmonologist, a lung doctor. I don't know how to pronounce it, and at Methodist Hospital in Houston, and to do a scope. Um, what do they call it? Bronchoscopy. So COVID times, it took, I think, 2 weeks to get into him. Did a bronchoscopy. He called me the next day and said, "I don't think it's lung cancer, but we can't count it out. I do not find any traces of lung cancer in your lungs, but I'm pretty sure it's lymphoma." I heard of lymphoma, I just never knew what it was. Um, and I started doing research, and my grandmother passed away after 4 years of battling leukemia 10 days before I started feeling my cough and my shortness of breath. So I was like, okay. And he didn't tell me what kind of lymphoma it was. I I was 39, I'm sorry. And they said usually Hodgkin's lymphoma is for affects younger people, 35 and under. So I was like, oh, so I might have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is the chances of living is a lot less than Hodgkin's lymphoma. So, of course, that was, going through my head. And the next step was going to an oncologist. It was at Methodist. It was actually the next door over. It, he set me up with an oncologist and a cancer surgeon for so they can, just in case they have to do biopsies and whatnot. I met up with the surgeon and the oncologist at the same time. It was usually, I think it took like about 2 weeks again for that. This whole process was pretty long. They did a PET scan. And when I met with my oncologist and the surgeon, the surgeon was, "Do you feel this?" And I'm like, "Yes, what is that?" He goes, "That's your lymph node." I'm like, "I never even seen that." And he goes, "That's right there. I'm pretty sure you have lymphoma." It was on my right side. And my oncologist at the time said, "We can't cancel out lung cancer or even testicular cancer, because testicular cancer can come up and raise lymph nodes up here in your lung area." So they set me up to do a biopsy on this lymph node right here. But I was so lean that I thought, to tell you the truth, I thought it was part of my muscle. After looking at it, I thought it was like my traps right here. So I really didn't think much of it. And I never really heard of lymphoma, so I never had a swollen lymph node in my life. So I just didn't think anything of it. So I was like, this is interesting. Of course, I went down the Google wormhole. Um, he said, well, he goes, this was on a Friday. And he goes, "I want to have this surgery on Monday morning, Tuesday morning at the latest. You've been getting to run around with this for too long now. We need to get you in." And I know COVID was an issue then, but I was in, I was a little bitter. They're pushing back cancer patients for COVID. And I go, this is really unfair. So he goes, I need to get you in Monday or Tuesday to have the biopsy on your lymph node right here. And they said he needs a COVID test, but it can take a week for the results of the COVID test. He goes, I don't want it. I need him in. And they go, we need to have a COVID test. And he goes, I don't want him to have a COVID test and wait that long. So he got me in anyways. He knew instantly that it was Hodgkin lymphoma, but they couldn't officially diagnose me. I had a follow-up appointment with my oncologist that next Friday. So 4 days later, and my wife and I are a nervous wreck. We were sitting there, and my oncologist is a young, 30, I think she was like 38, very young, very smart, and very positive doctor. And we were sitting there, and I just remember she opens the door really fast with a big smile on her face and says, I have good news. And my wife and I are like, does this mean it was totally something else? And she goes, it's Hodgkin's lymphoma. And we're like, wait, so it's good news that I have cancer, you know? We knew I had cancer at the time. But she goes, it's really good news. It's Hodgkin's lymphoma, not non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or even lung cancer or testicular cancer. So she goes, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start you on chemo instantly. And she goes, it was stage 2, stage 2B, Hodgkin's lymphoma. And we're going to start you on chemo the following month, not the next Monday, the following Monday. She said, usually stage 2B, you go through 12 chemo within 6 months, every 2 weeks, and ABVD for the first 4, and they take out the B, the bleomycin. And she was really adamant on to get me off bleo because I do run a lot, and I was a smoker in my 20s. So she goes, I want you off the bleo. I told her, I'm like, it's very important that I stay active and I still work. I want my life as normal as possible. And she was, then we need to try to get you off the bleomycin after number 4. I'm not gonna lie and say I wasn't scared. I was nervous, you know, because your whole life you're taught chemo patients are they're high risk. So I was nervous, but I was very positive. I was like, I'm gonna crush this thing. I was like, I'm gonna crush this, and my life's gonna get back to normal. I'm gonna do my best to do what I do on a daily basis, and I'm not gonna let this put me down. So I walked in there with a positive attitude. The nurses loved me. They're like, you are the happiest person here. They let my wife come with me in the first one because I think COVID cases just dropped down in Houston a little bit. And so they go, you can have your wife come in, which was really great. She sat with me the whole 5 hours. They took my lab work. They gave me the pre-meds, and I felt it kicking in instantly. As soon as I hooked the chemo up, I felt it instantly. And it was like, oh, this is not fun. and I think, yeah, I was there till like I got there at 7. I was there till 11:30. And they would come in every hour and replace the chemo bag with something new. The second treatment, I'm sorry, was pushed back a week because my lab work was coming off. My liver enzymes were really high, and it ended up being because I was taking valerian root. It's not sleep aid, but a sleep herb or something. It was throwing off my blood work, but they wanted to make sure the chemo wasn't messing up my liver. So that was the only one that got pushed back a week. My gums were burning. That was the only side effect. That was nausea, of course, and my gums were like my only first side effect. I tried to take the nausea medicine, and it didn't work. I think it made me feel a little worse. So I took them that one time and never took them again. The steroids would keep me up at night. I forgot to mention that the first 2 nights I would be wide awake with full energy because of the steroids, which they give you before the chemo. Every Monday that I would go in, I would get me a, oh, okay. The week of treatment, I felt bad. And then starting Friday afternoon, I would start coming back to life. Like my brain fog, I had brain fog, my brain fog would start going away. And I would start getting a lot of energy and my nausea would go away. Then usually by Sunday, felt like I was back to normal again. And then my life would be normal for a week, and then Monday morning, chemo, then a week of feeling bad, then a week of feeling good, chemo. It was just like a big cycle. And just about every treatment that week kind of got worse and worse and worse. I just made myself. I do not want to sit on the couch and feel miserable. I want to go. And I felt it help me. More of my mental state. It gave me more positivity. It gave me more hope. And it put in my head, I'm beating this. And so it was just I felt it was better for my mental being more than my physical being. I wouldn't say I had moments of depression or anything. I think I stayed pretty positive. I did get upset a lot easier. Like I wouldn't say lose my temper, but I was a lot more sensitive. But when it come to when it came to mental health and depression, I don't feel like I was really depressed at all, the whole thing. I actually think in a way it made me less depressed because it made me realize that I can still do almost everything I could have done. My last chemo, I decided to take the week off work and I decided not to be active. I wanted just to take a break from everything and just relax. That last week was the worst I've ever felt. I was I was sick the whole time. And I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I was not I was worse. I was just worse on everything. And I think it's because I sat on the couch and did nothing. And I felt bad for myself. I had a scan at after number four, I'm sorry, to see if I can get taken off the bleo. I had a PET scan. The doctor said, no more bleo. And then I had a CT scan after 8. And I think after 8, yeah, actually there was no signs of cancer in me at number 8. And so at 12, and at 8, I think they were going to determine if I needed radiology or not. Radiation, I'm sorry. And I didn't. And then my last chemo was November 31st. And my insurance wanted to wait 6 weeks before I had my next scan. And I believe it was a PET scan. So I had my PET scan 6 months later. I think it was January 16th. And it was all clear. I was with my wife. We were in my car on a Zoom appointment with my doctor because they were back in COVID protocol. It kept rising and going down, whatever. And which I was kind of happy about that because my wife was able to be with me because before she couldn't go with me to the doctor's appointments. So it was a great moment. I was in my truck outside of my work on my lunch break with my wife, and it was such a great feeling. It was one of the best things I heard in my life. She teared up, so she was really happy, of course. It was a journey. The day that she told me that I had no signs of cancer, I made sure I was signed up for the next marathon. And I completed the Houston Marathon 1 year and 1 day after she told me I was cancer free. So I jumped right into her saying, "You're no signs." Actually, after my last chemo, I kind of started getting really, really active, probably too active, more active than I should have. But then right when she told me that I was cancer free, I went all out. It was really great. It was a great feeling. I was mad at myself because I didn't hit my goal. I'm very competitive, but deep down, it was one of my proudest moments. Beside marrying my wife, it was probably my most proudest moment. And you, you just don't hear about that many people beating cancer, and then it's people think that their life is over afterwards, and it's not. I was 40 years old, got through chemo, and completed a marathon right afterwards. I got a scan after my 1 year. Everything was good, and my oncologist said I just need blood work for Hodgkin's. And of course, every oncologist has different opinions. Some want every year for the first 5 years. She said, I don't have to. I can if I want. I opted out on my 2-year scan just because my blood work came back good and I feel great. And I've heard if you try to minimize as many scans try to minimize scans because they're not the best for you. My advice is listen to your body. If your body tells you, let's get up and move, even if it's a little bit, do it. It will bring up your spirits. And just because you've gone through something traumatic does not mean your life is over. You still can get after it. And just do your best. And the rest will come.